North Carolina education leaders say our jobs of the future will be increasingly STEM-related. That means focused on science, technology, engineering, and math. But all too often, students lose interest in those types of subjects. Now, an innovative program is helping students discover just how fun a career in science and math can be.
I love the base that you've created.
This is the inspiration of Moni Singh, a computer science engineer by trade. She was born in India and worked for several top firms in the United States. But it was teaching her own two children about science that got the ball rolling, figuring out how to make a strong bridge out of nothing but a piece of paper. Their first design couldn't even hold one pencil.
And then we kept working on it, and then eventually they came to a design where that same single piece of paper could now hold 20 pencils, and it was still holding strong. And their eyes just lit up. They were totally amazed. How is it possible? That spark that I noticed in their eyes at that time, that was just truly inspirational and, got me started with STEM for Kids.
The truth is, she looked around for science programs for her kids and couldn't find any. So she said, I'll just start one myself.
Some of the projects they have created is just amazing.
They're working with forces and gravity. They're working on computer programming. They're making their own computer games. They're building robots. So there are a lot of different things that they're doing, but we're doing it in a simple way.
One summer program allowed them to join forces with engineers at Galero Biomedical in Durham. Their mission? To design a better plastic spoon. They researched it, built a clay model, and then 3D printed it. It was a hit.
Science is really fun.
When they graduated that first session and they were demonstrating the robots that they built to their parents, you could just see the smiles on their faces, their parents' faces, and I think that session changed them.
Singh also says a crucial part of this program is making STEM real, designing experiments to solve real-life problems, not to just get a grade on a test. She says children instinctively learn when they're working toward a tangible goal.
That's cool.
Making science, technology, engineering, and math fun. That is STEM for Kids' mission, to get students hooked on a future career that's growing and good paying, just the way Moni Singh did as a computer science engineer. It's a no-brainer. Take kids, add computer games and robots, and then let their brains engage. With robotics and computers expected to play an ever bigger part in the economy of our future, STEM for Kids aims to help our future leaders find out for themselves that science careers are just plain fun.
I like computers, and I think computers are really fun to experiment with and play with.
It doesn't matter which field you go into, you are going to be using the STEM skills that come with it.
All right, hi everyone. Welcome to the STEM for Kids webinar called 5 Practical Ways to Include AI in Your Classrooms, to incorporate it into your classrooms. And I am Shelby Jones, the Vice President of Operations here at STEM for Kids. Presenting the webinar will be Moni Singh, the STEM for Kids founder and CEO. The presentation will be around 35 minutes with a live Q&A afterwards. So please keep yourself muted until the end of the presentation. Any questions that you have during the session, please send them into the chat box as we will answer them for you. And yeah, so Moni, you may go ahead and begin the artificial intelligence webinar.
Awesome, Shelby. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. It is such a great pleasure for us to have you here. So we'll dive right into the practical ways in which you can use AI. So here's just a little beginning, okay? My exploration with AI, I think it was last year, I took a worksheet of math problems. These are simple kinds, the kinds that kids come home with, percentage problems. So, if you look at the first question, it says 30 children, 18 are girls. What's the percentage of girls? And then the second question is like, in a packet of 40 candies, 12 are red. What's the percentage of red candies? All I did was took a picture with my camera, and I put that image and uploaded it to Google's Gemini. Back at that time, ChatGPT did not allow image inputs. So I just did that picture and I said, solve these. That's all I said. I said, solve these, okay? In a matter of seconds, the answer just came out. Right there, all 6 problems solved with detailed explanations. Now, when I saw that, my first reaction, oh my God, what is it that we have done here? What's the world we are creating? Where is the academic integrity, right? How is a child supposed to learn? Are we creating a world where our children are just sitting there, doing whatever on their screen, mindlessly playing or watching whatever screen they are on? And there are automatons, almost like, the Roomba vacuum cleaners. They're going around the kids and doing their homework for them. Now, before I answer those questions, I was shocked. Let's take a few steps back to see where we are with artificial intelligence. Now, the earliest seeds of AI were sown back in the 1950s when Alan Turing came up with the Turing test. It's the way of defining what is AI. And then AI basically went into the academic disciplines in around 1956 when John McCarthy coined the term artificial intelligence. But due to limitations of the computing power back then and lack of just common knowledge databases, there was not enough data in the world. It failed to make its mark. The hype of AI almost died as the funding dried up completely in the 1970s. And then AI rose back. It rose back at what's called the expert systems back in 1980s. In 97, a chess-playing computer, Deep Blue, defeated the world chess champion Garry Kasparov. Deep Blue's victory is considered to be one of the main milestones in the history of artificial intelligence. Now, Deep Blue was at that time one of the state-of-the-art expert systems. It could evaluate 200 million different positions per second. Now, it relied on rules which were created by chess experts and computer scientists. Now, contrast that to the current AI or current chess playing engines. What typically happens is that we use machine learning, which trains a neural network to play and to develop its own internal logic, rather than relying on rules which were created by human experts. So rules mean, if this, do this, if this, do this, that kind of set. That's how the Deep Blue was structured, just too many if then else, and the computer could go through all those and figure out an answer. But nowadays, we are looking at machine learning, and the computers are actually learning and developing their own logic. Now, this is the time when I had just started working in the corporate world as a computer science engineer. During my university training, when I was getting educated as a computer science engineer, we were told about neural networks and artificial intelligence. It was something out there. When I started my corporate world, my work involved augmenting human intelligence with objects. So I worked on making mobile phones. Basically, if you remember back then when we had phones tethered to the walls, so I was part of making them mobile. And then actually getting internet into our homes, into our schools and businesses, so that we could work smartly wherever we are. Now, going back to our AI timeline, 1999, Sony launched Abo, the first robotic pet dog. And in 2002, we had the first mass-produced robotic vacuum cleaner, Roomba. Now, around the time when Apple launched Siri in 2011, that's when I decided to work directly in supporting human intelligence. And since then, I have been helping teachers and educators like you bring science, engineering, and technology to school-age children in practical ways as we make STEM fun and real. And our methods and lessons are in use worldwide at this point in time. So back to our timeline, 2014, Amazon launched Alexa. And then 2022 is when we saw ChatGPT, it became publicly available, and this whole hoopla around AI began, right? We haven't looked back since then. Now let's look at the pace of growth with AI. Now this chart shows how much time it took for a service to get 1 million users. Netflix took 3.5 years, Twitter 2 years, Facebook 10 months, and ChatGPT 5 days. Imagine that, 5 days to 1 million users. Now, in a survey done by the world-renowned management consulting firm, McKinsey and Company, they looked at the extent of how much AI is actually embedded in company functions. And as you can see, AI is all across the board, from industries, legal professionals to consumer goods, high tech, finance, even healthcare. And they're part of the functions in a variety of ways. Bottom line, AI is pervasive, it is disruptive, it is here to stay. So yes, we have created this artificial capability now. What do we do with it? Now, when we think about all the stuff that's going on, one approach is to continue teaching the way we have been, ignoring all the developments. You almost put like a blindfold and just ignore what's happening with AI. I actually heard this from one of the teachers who said, no way AI is coming into my classroom. But then what about academic equity? Don't we end up creating disparities with children who know about AI and children who don't? Moreover, the tool that's already touching so much of our lives and with its impact supposed to just keep growing, isn't our role as educators to prepare children for the world the way it's supposed to be now and it's heading to be? Not the past. Well, we teach history, but of course we have to prepare children for what's coming. The other approach could be that we fight digital cheating, become almost a spy, a detective, to sniff out AI. Now, as an educator, student relationship is all about trust. And what will that do to that trust? Moreover, isn't the purpose of education to enable children to become responsible, active adults? And now, even if you persist on being a spy, here, I did a Google search for ChatGPT output detector, and I got a lot of hits. There are many tools. I haven't used them, but I hear some teachers are trying. But then I also searched for humanized ChatGPT output, and I got an equal number of tools. I know students who ChatGPT an answer and then humanize with one of these tools to submit their homework. There is no end to it. We know technology is only advancing. It's a cat and a mouse game trying to sniff out AI cheating. Now, neither of the two approaches of ignoring it with a blindfold or fighting it will work. Just like when calculators came or the grammar checks came or Google Translator came, or even the smartphones, right? We figured out the ways to utilize the tools while continuing to educate our students. So there has to be another way. Now, this is when, of course, my mind was so boggled when I did that homework assignment. I went back to the sheet, and this time I put it on Microsoft's Bing AI. And then I looked closely at the answers. Now, Bing took an approach of a coach. It was telling how to solve, but did not actually solve the problems. Now, for the first problem, which was percentage of girls, it got the same answer, but it solved a different problem. It solved for 12 girls in a class of 20. I think the original problem was citing 18 girls in a class of 30. For the second question, it solved 9 red candies in a bag of 18, got a wrong answer, 50%. So if a child had blindly copied those answers, they would be showing wrong results. So maybe, just maybe, all is not lost yet. There's hope. So I was very optimistic now. So I said, okay, let me try another problem. This time I found a little bit harder, a little bit tricky problem. And as you can see in this image, look at the question number 14. It just gives you a series of numbers with some, some blanks. And that's all again, I just took an image and then I uploaded it. And I didn't say anything else, right? I just said, solve this. Now, I'll give you a few seconds just to see, what do you think about that problem number 14? If you have any insights, please do put that on the chat box. We'll give a couple of seconds. Let us know what you're thinking. What's the answer to that problem? Anyone? All right, let me know that you are here. Give me some feedback. You're still here with us, right? Okay, all right, so you can still hear me. So let's go back into this problem. So it's basically a sequence problem. Again, this is not a mathematic exercise. We're not here to do mathematics, but I wanted to just show you how things are shaping up. Now, this is a sequence problem. If you look deeply, it's a 2-1 sequence, right? 3 to 5 is increasing by 2, then 5 to 6 increases by 1, then again it increases by 2, and then by 1. So it's a 2-1 sequence. Now, the answer to this question is 14, 15, because if you look at number 12, after number 12, it will be 2 increasing by 2, that's 14, and then 15. Now, Google Gemini, I put this question for Google AI platform, and they came up with a wrong answer. They said 13 and 14. And I asked it to explain their answer. Some explanation, it is saying it's a sequence, it figured that part out. But in that explanation, it begins by saying the answer is 13 and 14. But while it's explaining it, it comes up with a totally different answer within that explanation. So all I can say is that AI is completely confused. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Tried another problem. We're not going to do that here today. I'm just going to skip through that. But the same thing happened again. AI was confused, coming up with wrong answers, and then also providing explanations which do not lead us to any answer. And even an explanation comes up with another totally different answer, okay? So that's the state of what was going on with all these things. I even asked them, both of your answers are wrong. And when confronted with that, it said, yes, you are correct. And then came up with yet another answer in that explanation. So again, all we can say is that there was some confusion going on the part of artificial intelligence. So moving on, this time instead of image, I just typed the numbers to see maybe this will make it easier for the chatbot. So we just typed in the numbers. You can see that just a sequence of number exactly the way it was on that image. But even then, we didn't get the right answer. And then we actually gave a simpler prompt, really telling them that, hey, listen, it's a sequence problem. Here are the set of numbers. What are the next 2 numbers? This question went to ChatGPT. It did come up with the right answer after all that exercise of giving it the exact right set of prompts to solve it. Okay, so let's take a quick look at it to see what's really happening here, right? When you look at the percentage problem, which the AI was able to solve so nicely, right, just with an image, that percentage problem does not require any conceptual understanding of what percentage actually means or why the formula works. All you have to do is to put the 2 numbers, A divided by B times 100, and that's the percentage. It's as simple as that. It has a very low cognitive demand. AI works great there. But when we came to the sequence problem, this is where it involved finding a pattern without any explicit formula. It needed some reasoning and creativity to figure out how the numbers are related and what logic can be used to continue that sequence. And that demands higher cognition or more critical thinking. And AI did not do so well, did it? All right, so I was I wanted to try more problems, which I did. I'm not going to get into all those details right here with some of these other problems, but similar things. We kept seeing issues with AI figuring out the answers, which human beings are able to look at certain patterns and figure out what to do. AI was having some issues with figuring out these answers, okay? I'll skip through these and we'll... So let's talk more about now that what do we do now given the situation, right? I previously left you with an image that we are creating children who are mindless consumers of screens with automatons doing the work for them. So based on all these findings now, let me present a different picture, okay? And let's try this picture instead. What if our student is more like a curious explorer, riding on an electric bike, fully in control of the steering, the navigation, they're attentive, but the ride is easier. They don't have to constantly pedal. So some of the more mechanical type of thinking gets automated, just like having a calculator. But they're still in control of their learning, of their experience. With me so far? So now let's think about the teacher, right? Now in 1998, the first computer-assisted bone segment navigation took place in Germany. Now what is that? It's a surgical method which is used to position displaced bone fragments, people who go through like injuries, massive injuries here in their jaw. That surgical method was used to position those displayed bones, fragments back into place, or to assist in positioning surgically created fragments during surgery, mainly during that jaw reconstruction. Now, in this procedure and several other such procedures, right, there's a surgeon, and that surgeon is in full control with high-tech tools. They're able to do their jobs more efficiently and with a lot more precision. And that is how I see the future of teaching. You equipped with high-tech tools to provide education with more precision. So now the question is, how do you do that? Well, you have the vacuum, clear up. You have personal tutors, personalize. You have the gloves, go hands-on. You have the elevator ascend. What do I mean by those? We'll take a closer look next. So first of all, you have AI as an assistant. Use that to clear up your schedule. There are so many little bit mundane tasks here and there that take up your bandwidth completely. And there are so many possibilities now with AI that if you're not using, you're missing out. You could really be saving a bunch of time on your calendars. I'm not trying to sell you anything because all of this is freely available. You could use any of the AI tools which are out there, whether it's ChatGPT. Use the free versions, okay? Google's Gemini. There's Microsoft has a tool. There are many more like that. I think X, Twitter has come up with something too. I know Meta has one. So there's lots of these tools out there. You can use these AI assistants to do simple tasks like drafting your emails, translation. You could generate an initial schedule of weekly activities. You can even use them for lesson planning help. Now, there's so much available on the web for free if you search on basics. I don't intend to go into details here. That's not the session for it. But if you are interested, let us know. We'll do another deeper dive session on that. But let me show you some examples very quickly, just to put a case in point, right? Here's a simple prompt: draft a meet the teacher letter for parents for 6th grade. And here you go. This is, I think, Gemini, Google Gemini. It comes up with an entire letter. You can take it as a baseline and then tweak it. Do whatever you need to do, edit it out, and it makes a task a lot more simpler. The next prompt I gave was just translate this letter to Spanish or any other language, right? And here you go. You have a translation ready to go. Give a grammatically wrong passage on diversity in STEM. So if you are an English teacher, here, you can produce a passage like that with all kinds of errors, and you can have children correct it. Provide ideas for first week of activities for 4th grade students. Again, you get like a day 1, day 2, some things. At least it's a starting point, and then you can go, make it better per your needs. You can also, by the way, in the prompts, you can give more, like if you can even put like more specificity, like, maybe you are a person who loves to use sports metaphor. So maybe you can say, hey, provide ideas for the week of activities and, include some sports themes, or just become more specific, and that way you can get something which reflects more of you. And it's a great way to do that. Create a passage on ethical use of genetics and provide reading comprehension questions for 6th grade students in the USA. Again, you can get as specific on these types of prompts so you can get better responses from the AI. All right, so moving on, the next strategy I mentioned to you was you have personal tutors, personalizing learning for your students. Now, I was looking at this teacher in kindergarten and first grade who basically had this AI chatbot like Alexa in the classroom. So students who need help with spelling, they could just go, they're stuck and they could ask the chatbot, say, hey, how do you spell this word? Now imagine how much that opens up your bandwidth, whereas the child is getting the personal attention they need. Here's another example. I posed as a student and I asked, I'm learning about equations in class. Where will I apply this in real life? AI comes up with answers, all kinds of ideas like, oh, you could use it for age or geometry or speed, time. I was not happy with that answer. Maybe as a student, I don't like that. I don't fully understand this. So I said, hey, these are very theoretical. I'm still unclear as to which careers and industries will use these equations in a real world setting. We now get a little bit better response, and chatbot is coming up and giving some real career connections. You can use it for financial analysis or in engineering. Now, let's say this child has an interest in financials, so they can maybe ask further, how might a financial analyst use equations? And you can see even more detailed response with, you can use it to compute net income, return on equity, profit margin, etc. Now, this child is overwhelmed. And so they say, hey, in simple terms, please, I'm a 6th grader. And now look at the response coming back from AI. Much simpler explanation. It's not telling you, okay, hey, a financial analyst looks at how much money a company makes or spends, and it's explaining it much more simpler. Do you see this? Do you see how profound this is? Look at the implications. Kids have personal tutors. Now, in today's world, it's very hard to afford a personal tutor, but here you have something available for free. All that's needed is device and internet access. Now, many schools, of course, are already moving towards at least having devices and internet access in the school. So you see how you can start to bring these into a form where children are actually getting more attention based on their interests, very personalized learning, while you still have the time and bandwidth that you need to take care of yourself, right? Not have a burnout. The third strategy I gave you was do more hands-on activities. You have the gloves. And you can do that with your students. Now, we have been discussing this, right? In pedagogy, we always talk about, hey, do more hands-on, more experiential work, more project-based, play-based learning, because all of that learning creates stickiness. Children get it. They understand it, right? They can experience something and they learn in a different way altogether. But now, just because you have those personal assistants using AI, you may find that time that was previously lacking. So you may be able to incorporate some more hands-on into whatever you're doing. I always give this this example because this is the way I understand hands-on. When I was in schools, and all I knew about Newton's second law was force equals mass times acceleration, right? The way it was taught to us in school was, given a mass, here's the mass, here is the acceleration, compute force. Almost like just a mathematical equation. I could never understand what it really meant until the time, I developed STEM for Kids more than 12 years ago, and actually started to figure out, how do we relay that to kids? So instead of just a little formula out there, they can really understand, oh, something is heavy. I need more push. I need to give it more push because it's heavier. And though that's the kind of meaningful learning connections you can create now, given that you have little more bandwidth coming because of your personal assistants. So use that. All right. The next strategy I gave you was you have the elevator ascend. What do I mean? Okay, first a quick story. In 1857, Otis installed the first elevator in New York City. Now, before the widespread use of elevators, most residential buildings were limited to 7 stories. Wealthy people used to live on the lower floors, while the poor would live on the higher levels because they would be required to climb many flights of stairs. Wealthy didn't want to do that. Now, of course, elevators reverse that social stratification, right, which is exemplified by the modern penthouse suites. Now, what I'm telling you is that with artificial intelligence, you have the elevator now, and that then allows you to go higher up on what? Higher up on what? Higher up on the Bloom's taxonomy. You may be familiar with this taxonomy. It's basically about the levels of cognition. It's a tool used in curriculum designing, teaching, learning, assessing. Basically, at the bottom you have simple aspects of thinking like remembering a fact. Recite a formula, just like I showed you. Force equals mass times acceleration, right? That's just a remembrance. Understanding. So now you understand a little bit relationship between force and mass and acceleration. But then as you go higher up, now you're getting more into the higher orders of thinking, more deeper critical thinking, right? Now you're able to apply, propose an experiment to demonstrate the second law of motion. Or maybe you're analyzing, you're comparing and contrasting real world examples of objects that follow this law. Or you go higher up, you're evaluating. You're assessing how it impacts various technologies and engineering different products out there. Or you could actually be using all this learning to create something totally new. You're trying to solve a problem, devising a solution, a new design or something, right? To see how you go higher up in that critical thinking and the level of cognition. And that's what it is. Now you have the elevator and you can climb up climb higher into this taxonomy. All right, so let's take a look at what does that ascent actually looks like, right? Now for pre-K to 2 students, if you're looking at really young ones, you want to provide an awareness that AI is a technology. There was a survey done of the very young children, and many of them thought that Siri was a real person. So it's very important for them to understand that, these are just technologies created by people. Here is, I found this interesting tool. It's freely available. The Quick Draw, you can see the link on it. It basically, you can basically, you use that in the classroom. And as the students are drawing, in 20 seconds, this tool tries to guess, what is it that you're doodling? What is it that you're creating? And by the way, you see this picture of 110,000 different images of what was that? Bird designs. They're looking at bird designs over here. So again, it's just, and you can actually look into the database that Google is creating of all these doodles to see, how AI, artificial intelligence, is able to detect. So if they see certain kinds of pencil marks, or in this case, basically drawings on screen, they're able to say, oh, it starting to look like a bird, and it can guess a bird. So it's very interesting to try with the little ones. Now, when you're looking at, little older kids like grades 2 to 5, you can look at modeling using AI, the use of AI for problem solving and communication. So things like what I just showed you, right? As an educator, if you're using AI for maybe cleaning up your email, those little use cases are good to be taught to young children as well. I mean, many children these days have some kind of a screen. So why not even tell them how to make use of it in the right way? And then with the older grades, the grade 5+, really going higher, like really the higher order of critical thinking, which is paramount. So what does that higher order of thinking look like? Let me give you some examples. So first of all, check your own answers. Now, what if you actually have the kids do some work, and then let them use the AI to do some work, some homework work. Like if you saw the example that I shared with you, the mathematics ones, right? If you take the same problem to different chatbots, different answers were coming. Which one is correct? So now you could actually check AI's work. So AI becomes a student, AI is giving some answers, and the student is the teacher. Now the student has to figure out, okay, what is the right answer here, and how do I know what is the right answer? So you could try something like that. You can also have students look for biases in what the AI tool is coming up with. This was really interesting. I think I was trying to see what kind of biases are coming up in these AI responses. And so I was really trying to I put questions which I know can create those biases, right? So this question is, give me a 5-paragraph essay on pros and cons of abortion. So of course I used a subject which can have, sentiments on pretty fixed sentiments on both the sides. But what was interesting, while ChatGPT, actually I see it tries to stay very clear from biased responses. It tried really hard not to give me any biased feedback. But this one is interesting. I think this was Bing. And it basically starts saying things like, my own view on abortion is, and I'm like, really? A chatbot, an AI machine is telling me their viewpoint? Now think about that. Whose viewpoint is this AI engine actually reflecting? And that's very important, because you could get these kinds of responses. I was hearing some of the work going on in the healthcare field. And there, if you look at historical data of some of the diseases like, cancer and other, deadly diseases, there's a lot of data which shows that some of the minorities would die if they actually had surgeries. But the reason was maybe because of other element, right? The socioeconomic factors, not so much because of their color, because of their race. But if AI uses that data to come up with predictions for today, it could basically tell the current patients that, hey, don't get the surgery because based on, past history, most blacks died. And so there's all these biases kind of implicit in the data. And so somebody has to look at them and basically think very critically about, where is that coming from, and is it really the right thing? So you can actually use some of these examples, especially with your older kids, to think about biases and think from a different perspective. Talking about perspectives, you can actually have children deliberately try different personas. So here I went to the chatbot and I said, hey, I am looking at the issue of affirmative action. I'm a Black student. What's the impact of affirmative action on me? These are US-based examples. If you're joining from another country, just know it's like a policy thing, and it impacts different races differently. So you could actually have these kinds of discussions that you can have the children even explore other perspectives, other sides of how an issue impacts that side, right? So here the next prompt I gave was, imagine I'm an Asian student, what's the impact? So you can kind of get to see that you can actually have children try out and learn from different perspectives as well. The other thing I showed you was, sorry, need to go back here. I showed you about the industry connections, right? I gave you examples where a child could actually explore more with the chatbots around different career connections. So that's really cool. And then the last piece is metacognition, which is thinking about one's thinking and exercising control over that thinking. This is something that's really critical, especially in this age, the digital age, where our kids have so much information and so much distraction going on. It is a subject in itself. I won't go into details today, but if you have an interest, let me know. We'll try to create another separate discussion on that. Now, the fifth strategy, right? I told you about that. And this one is more of a using AI versus inventing AI. Now, most of us will be users of artificial intelligence, right? Whether we are already a user now or we soon will be. But there'll be a few who will actually invent AI, right? And you could help your students explore that side of invention using AI. Now, we have our STEM for Kids programs that provide, machine learning opportunities for children. Actually, we work with children as young as kindergartners in machine learning, and because we have ways to kind of get really hands-on in ways that children can really grasp and understand. So we have different tools. In this particular example, this one is super cool. I really liked it, and that's why I put that up here. Is in this simple example, the kids basically, first of all, train a machine to figure out, looking at different images, what's a car and what's a cup. So, they're trying to train the machine to understand the difference between a cup and a car. And then they write a program, and when they execute that program, the machine is able to automatically look at images and kind of sort them out. You can see this in the left-hand side bottom image. It sorts them out nicely. Here are all the cars, here are all the cars. So pretty interesting, and kids kind of get a sense of how all of this is really working, right? It's all about data and training a machine to do certain things. Okay, So enough said about that. I wanted to end it by summing it up for you, okay? Think of it this way. The water in this image, the water is the AI, right? We know it's pervasive. It is coming at us and it is impacting you. How you see that pyramid, right? That's the pyramid of our thinking. The higher you go, that's the deeper level of cognition, right? Now, of course, this water of AI is impacting the more mechanical thinking aspects across the board. Now, whether you love it or hate it, it is here to stay. So what you can do now, based on the strategies I mentioned to you, you can go hands-on. You can leverage the teaching assistant that you have and the personal tutors that you can provide to your students and rise up to the higher levels of that critical thinking. So that's the bottom line on what you can do with AI. We have additional information. If you are interested, you can go to that website. And I think, Shelby, if you can put that link up there, you can go to that website for any additional information that you may need around this or anything else, just about how to engage students in STEM. We have been doing it for 12 years, so happy to help you guys out in any shape or form. So with that, I'll stop and we will open it for Q&A.